Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are so excited to welcome Dashon Burton to the Chorus Effect today. He is one of my favorite artists to collaborate with. He's just an incredible singer and an incredible person, and we're thrilled to chat with him today. Welcome, Dashon.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thanks so much,
Oh, I
Kathleen.
can't.
What an honor to see you. Oh,
Oh,
can't hear
there
me?
you are.
Okay,
No, it's
great.
good. It was just a little bit delayed. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let me know if there's anything I need to do.
Nope, that sounds perfect. Loud and clear. How are you?
I'm feeling okay today. Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be with everyone today. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing well. Doing well. It's a
Good, good.
hot, sunny day in Toronto, so it's a little easier to be cheery.
That
Uh,
certainly helps.
yeah. So just tell us what your life has looked like in the last little while. I want to talk to you about, life outside
Yeah,
of that first, but let's get it out
yeah,
of the way.
absolutely.
Where are you and what have you been up to?
I'm so grateful to be with family and just to be kind of enjoying my time a little bit and getting to a few projects that I have been meaning to do over the years. I've been basically traveling nonstop, more or less, since for about a decade. And so it's been a really nice time to reconnect with friends and family for sure. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Are you in
yeah,
Manhattan? And you
yeah, yeah.
have been? Okay, good, good. Yeah, well, crazy place and time to be, but so glad you're getting to some things. I think last time we worked together, I'm not sure you had a fixed address at that point. You like literally have been on the road for
Off
years.
and on. I'm just so. It's a huge part of my life, and I do love to travel for sure. So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you came to music, how music has been part of your life, and how choir has played a part in that. I'd love to just hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I started when I was 13, I think. I had a good friend who I was just hanging out with one day, and we were just chatting in the halls, and he was in the choir, and so we were just talking and having fun and being average 13-year-olds. And then he let me know, I think the next day or something like that, that the chorus teacher had overheard us speaking. And even at the age of 13, I had a pretty naturally resonant voice, and it was kind of lower. And my voice had already changed and everything. So, as every eighth grade chorus teacher is always on the lookout for, he was on the lookout for lower male voices. And so he said, "Hey, you should join the chorus. We need more basses." And I had no clue what he was talking about, absolutely no clue at all. So I just thought, okay, well, whatever, this will just be a good chance to hang out with my friends and just to have some fun. And so yeah, I did that, and then it was a pretty rocky first audition for sure. Yeah, I couldn't match pitch, just because I didn't really know what any of that stuff was right away. But I caught on pretty quickly, actually. Especially for no, sort of formal music training in any way before that. And I really took a shining to it. That chorus teacher was also the organist at a local Episcopal church that just had wonderful music program. So
Cool.
I ended up joining the church choir as well, and singing in various services and different musical productions that were happening there. I was very lucky to be in a large school system with a really great music program, and so I that was kind of my first foray into music was kind of in late eighth grade, and then all throughout high school is when I was able to kind of really hone in and start the training in that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow, that it just caught that. Well, they caught you really. You caught their
yeah. I
attention,
was I
and
was I was very lucky, and they were incredibly supportive. And I really liked it. So
yeah.
it was kind of a great coincidence, for me to find something that I liked in that way. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And then after that, did you go into full-time music right away? Did you always know at what point did you know that you would be pursuing this as like a real job?
I don't even think I still know that in a way. No, I've been really lucky, certainly, and I think, like I said, a lot of that luck started, when I was just first starting out, because I just didn't know, what it was like to be a professional musician. I didn't know the sort of world, and I had a lot of really great people who were very patient with me, and just said, it's okay, you're just learning and everything,
Mm.
but here, try this instead, or try to figure this out, or things like that. But I would say it was really after college. I graduated from Oberlin College, and after that, I got a singing job in a men's ensemble called Cantus, based in Minneapolis, and it was a really great first foray into the kind of full-time touring lifestyle and what it was
Yeah.
like to be a professional musician. So yeah, that's really when I knew it was, when it was possible. I was lucky to say, in a way, that I knew it was possible when I got my first job right out of college. But a lot of hard work, went into that, in terms of trying to understand who I was as an artist, who I was as a musician, and really who I was as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all trying to figure out so much in our 20s, and I was really grateful to have a lot of support and a lot of very patient people around me giving me ideas.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, Cantus is such an incredible
Yeah,
ensemble, and they've been doing a beautiful series during quarantine of releasing
hmm,
videos that they were able to put together before. And I know they're one of
right,
the
right, of course.
busiest vocal ensembles in North
Yeah.
America. They're just like, that's really a full time job,
It
right?
is, yeah.
That's amazing.
It is a full time job, and it
Yeah.
was such a delight for me to find out, that I really do love travel, and I really love
Mm.
the kind of road life. In this way, you just get to meet so many people. You get to really experience so many different cultures, and then be able to share your culture in that way. And this exchange was so important to me, especially as I was just finding out what it was like to be a musician,
Yeah.
in that way. So yeah.
You mentioned the cultural exchange and just exposure to the rest of the world, like through that
Hmm.
musical lens. I would love your perspective, if you're willing to talk today, about what role choral music and music in general should play in the Black Lives Matter conversation, and how
Hmm.
we can further that cause, from our little corner of the world. How do you approach that, and what are your thoughts there?
It's a huge subject, and a huge opportunity. I think, for musicians to really right a lot of wrongs, and we have to always sort of look in our own, sort of tend to our own garden first, or look in our
Mm.
own spirits and our own practices. And for so long, people were just not made to feel welcome. They were really excluded, and in a lot of ways, just told that you can't be here.
Mm.
Obviously, through very overt ways, such as segregation, and
Mm.
making it illegal, to practice music in certain styles. Um, but then, sort of even having appropriative effects, and taking that music in that way, it's a huge problem, in the way that I think Western music, has kind of evolved, certainly in recent times. And I think that's, what we're trying to solve, is the question, and the kind of practice of how do we make people, not only, one, feel welcome, but to actually, to say that you need to be here. This
Mm.
is your community. We are this community. We really need everyone in this community to be represented in the music that we're making. So yeah, there are many different, I think, issues and practices that we can be looking at, and that we can be really, yeah, asking ourselves questions about how it is that we rehearse, how it is that we perform, how it is that we plan, these concerts, and who we're trying to reach.
Mm.
uh, Unfortunately, I think, just again, by the sort of standard practice, where we really do try to exclude people so often in classical music, and that has to stop. I've worked for so many years, not only to make myself feel welcome, but to make everyone feel welcome, especially our young Black and brown heroes in schools and growing up. There are lots of opportunities, I think, for a lot of people to make music, but not that doesn't often get translated into being a professional musician, into feeling like you have a voice that is desired and that really needs to be in this society. So yeah, we have a long road to go to erase a lot of these practices, but I'm so just heartened by the work that's happening in the Black Lives Matter movement and in Black Voices Matter movement, and all of these efforts that people are trying to do to, again, erase these kinds of old ways of thinking.
Wow, you've just touched on so many points. I feel like we could, dedicate a whole symposium to each of them.
Certainly, it really, this feels overwhelming because it is overwhelming. The violence perpetrated against Black people, especially in this country, is overwhelming and should feel overwhelming, and it should feel as painful and as intense as we have been feeling for our entire existence in this country, and for so many marginalized people in this country and in our society at large. We should be, just sort of taken aback. We should be shocked by how prevalent this is. That isn't to say that we shouldn't, that we should sort of be frozen, in our fear, but the truth is, it is incredibly shocking. It is incredibly overwhelming, just the sheer amount that has been happening. And now we have, again, this opportunity to really effect change. And I think, the inertia has been overcome, and that we're really pushing so much progress in recent months to really be making strong change. And so everything that anyone can do, we all have to do 100%. That's just the simple truth of it. There is so much that we can do, but the more that we all do everything that we can do, the stronger we'll all be.
And that shock factor is the first step, right? Like to be amazed and shocked and horrified, and then learn and face it head on and progress through that, rather than it like you said, letting it paralyze you or saying it's too much, I can't. But push through that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to. Anytime there's a reckoning, with any of us individually, we sort of say, we look at our past practices, our history, we look at the way we have been, and there's always some kind of shock, there's always some kind of reckoning, but that never that is a stepping stone, that is a stepping point, into the future, and yeah, this is just a huge opportunity for us. So we all have to really pitch in.
And a time to learn. And I think while the world is still not operating at its regular breakneck pace, it's an opportunity for everyone to dig in and learn and reflect on this. I know I've learned so much in the last month that I just had no idea. I listened to a session last week at the Chorus America conference, and one of the clinicians said he grew up in a segregated school. And it blew my mind how close in history we're talking about these really systemic issues, and then also, as you mentioned, the unconscious bias that has stemmed from that and just permeated, that we need to address too.
It's still here every day, everywhere. Absolutely.
So in terms of choral music, or in terms of your experience, how have you, or do you hope to engage with this as a musician? Are you talking about programming music by Black and Indigenous composers of color? Are you talking about working with more artists of color? Are you talking about outreach to schools. Where is your head at in like what we can do as an artist community?
I think we all have to put in our maximum effort, especially at this time, to do what it is that we can. Now, there are some people, who are in different positions. There are people with larger platforms. There are people with sort of limited abilities. That doesn't mean that everyone has to do the same thing, or everyone has to kind of throw themselves into an arena where you're unfamiliar. You really, as we were kind of talking about even in the Chorus America conference last week, you have to find what your assets are, and you have to really invest in those assets in a positive way. So if you are able to, because you have connections to schools or to educational institutions, you can do work to really broaden the reach of these institutions, and that I think begins with educating yourself and knowing exactly where the kind of the current reach is, and where the efforts are already being put, and just broadening that reach into your community, for example, as an educational institution. But I mean, if you for example are in this position where you have an educational sort of community in this way, you may not necessarily be ready to write a whole book on it, or to kind of even think of some really clever TikTok video or something like that. That's okay. I'm not saying that everyone has to do the same thing. Whatever it is that is your asset, you have to go with that. You have to be able to offer that to the community in this way. And I think that can take so many forms. If you feel you're really strong at listening, and if you feel like this is a good time to be listening, for you, go into the community and talk to people and just listen and learn. If you feel like this is a time to write to your family, or to have hard conversations with your family, because you're feeling that we have all sorts of other hard conversations, but we're just not used to this one. That's okay. Dip a toe in there and really go into that direction in terms of the communication with individual people. The more we educate ourselves, the better chance we have of spreading this message of reconciliation and of true work for justice. And music faces just as much of a reckoning as any other field. Absolutely. So yeah, whatever your assets are, that's where you focus. You focus as much energy as you can, and really all in terms of learning. How should I say? In terms of learning more about what you can do, the more that you do, the more that you learn. You can. It sounds a little redundant, but it's the truth. Truly that the more work that you're doing, it just sort of begets itself.
And you're engaged, so you are listening and doing, and probably making mistakes and learning again and listening.
Yeah. A lot of people are afraid of making mistakes too, and a lot of just to take it back, to the choral field, for example. We've been talking a lot about the kinds of research that goes into specific pieces or something like this. This for me comes from two different angles. The first is that we are so enamored with music from our history and music from the Western canon. And especially, you and I, for example, we're really fascinated by early music, Baroque music, Renaissance music, all of this sort of thing. There were times, probably that we wouldn't have known, what tempo to take or how to pronounce this or that, and we sought out help, or we had that community of people who were able to say, no, it's really kind of more like this, or this is how they do it around the world, or this is how scholars do it, or something like that.
And scholars have dedicated their entire careers to studying a very particular slice that
exactly.
then generate music.
Yeah. So we know how to do the work, we just haven't given ourselves that same opportunity to do the work about music that we really need to be shining a light on these
Yeah.
days. It's very easy, to put a spiritual at the end of the concert. Um, there are all sorts of feelings about that. I don't personally think that that's something that we should all be doing on every concert. It isn't. There is so much more music, especially by Black composers and by Black living composers, that is representative of the entire spectrum of the Black experience, and we have not only an opportunity but a responsibility to really shine a light on that music as well. And we also have the same opportunity and responsibility to seek out the same level of research and the same level of investment that goes on in so much of the other work that we're doing. So yeah, that's kind of this dichotomy that
Right.
we're so eager, to do work. We can also be eager to do work in so many different fields.
Yeah, and it may take a little bit more effort while we're undergoing this reconciliation, as you put it. We're trained in conservatories to know exactly where to go in the library when we're researching a Brahms motet or a Bach cantata or a Beethoven symphony, and we don't always know where to turn to do that same level of research and engagement when we're programming either a spiritual or a contemporary piece by a Black composer. And I am hopeful that will transform now that
We
we have those
absolutely
resources.
we
And
have these opportunities, and
yeah,
the amount of
this.
time, it isn't a matter that it's harder, or it feels like more work or anything.
Mm,
um as my good friend Alex Blake says, it's just about it's about catching up. We have done so much work, in so many different fields, and we've just left other fields neglected,
mm.
and this beautiful fruit is dying on the vine. It is just about catching up. It isn't more work. It isn't harder. It's none of that sort of thing. It's just about catching up to the community and to the conversations that we need to be having. So.
Thank you. That is just such an encouraging frame to put this in. I know we have some choral conductors watching, and it's about overcoming that initial fear and wanting to engage really meaningfully. I so appreciate that, Dashon. Awesome. Would you talk a little bit about the variety of singing that you do in your work? You do solo oratorio stuff. You
Yeah,
do
yeah.
operatic roles. You do ensemble work. Roomful of Teeth is a whole other genre done to itself.
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah,
Tell us
I
about that and how you
after
navigate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After I graduated from conservatory, I was in this group Contis, which really gave me a good foundation for how to sing different kinds of ensemble music, and it was just such a joy to really have to have the chance to just sink our teeth into absolutely everything. Our typical kind of home life was rehearsing 6 hours a day, and I mean, what a joy that was, to be able to devote that much time to really memorizing the music and letting it sink into our bones, and just having
Mm-hmm.
that much time together in that way. To this day, in a way, Contus is by far the tightest ensemble that I've ever had the pleasure to work with,
Cool.
and that's again just because we had so much time together, and we really were this kind of one-celled organism in a way,
Mm.
and we all just came together in such a beautiful way. And after about 4 years of that, I wanted to explore what it was like to be a solo singer. I'd gotten a lot of a lot of kind of advice, and people were saying, you might want to explore this world as well. You have a resonant voice, and with a different kind of training, you might be able to enjoy some different kinds of music. And even since I started in when I was 13 in high school, I was just I just wanted to learn about a broad array of music. So I was always fascinated by music of different genres and styles and music from around the world and everything like this. And it was just there was this fire in me to kind of get back into school and to have more training for my solo voice in this way. So I was very lucky to go to the Yale Institute of Sacred Music, where we studied Baroque music and Renaissance music, and that was kind of my first foray into that deep and expansive world of performance practice and period music. And it was a really great opportunity. Again, my wonderful teachers were incredibly patient with me, as that was, again, my first kind of exposure to that. But I worked hard and I really loved it, more importantly. And so it was just a lot of fun. After I graduated from there in about 2011, I started. I was a freelance singer and still am a freelance singer. And so this is just kind of finding different opportunities to be a solo singer. For me and for my training, that was more the concert stage than the operatic stage, which is kind of the more typical route for a solo classical singer. But I was just really fascinated with concert works and with symphonic works. And still with chamber music and all sorts of things. So I was trying to kind of keep a flexible approach to my music making, and one that wasn't sort of so predicated on this kind of I don't know how you would say, deep but very narrow focus of the kind of operatic grand opera tradition. I really did enjoy, learning about lots of different music, especially ensemble music, especially the sort of orchestral and concert repertoire. And so I had to kind of really balance, my kind of vocal technique in a way to be able to coexist in some of these worlds.
So how do you adapt? If you were what is the literal physical difference between when you're singing in a group like Cantus or a piece of chamber music with other singers around you, or like our chorale where we work together, and then let's say a Bach Passion as a solo?
Yeah, I think I'm also lucky in that I've been able to work with a lot of really flexible conductors and people who aren't aren't trying to control your voice in this way. So I would say that that finding people who are willing to make it a true collaboration is a good first step. And finding people who are willing to say, I might prefer this sort of way, but let's try to figure out something that sounds natural. Because I think that the best singing just is what sounds most natural in a singer's voice. And for some people, that is absolutely one kind of just sort of putting the blinders on and saying this is kind of the only rep that I sing, and that's great. That is when it's most natural. That's when it feels best to me. For other singers and a lot of our colleagues, as you know, that is kind of being able to be flexible and to have this kind of flexible approach to singing in this way. One of the things that we say in Roomful of Teeth all the time, as we've studied music from all around the world, is that we have found that good singing is good singing, and it is just true. You kind of know when it sounds right, when it feels right, when someone's heart, mind, and voice and spirit are all aligned. That is the experience that we're always after. And so beside that, you kind of have this kind of metaphysical sort of idea that the more natural that it sounds, or this kind of general sort of taste thing, the more natural that it sounds, the better. And just right next to that is the idea that almost every singing style is predicated on finding the most amount of resonance that you possibly can, and to find it, and to being able to be able to manipulate that resonance for different styles of music, but really at the end of the day, just finding the most natural resonance that you can works for absolutely every style of music. We really want to find this open sound that just allows our voice, our internal voice as it is just naturally to really bloom and to really come out. So that's kind of the one of the more basic technical sort of similarities that I've found in so many different things. I think it's very rare to say that you have to change your voice from genre to genre.
Mm-hmm.
If you find that natural resonance, a lot of it becomes style. You might change things for a word here or there just to really kind of hammer home some sort of emotional point. But at the end of the day, and by the way, to get to the end of the day vocally healthily, you have to find that natural resonance and allow the resonance to do the work for you, rather than sort of push differently or say it has to sound this way. That's not as interesting as just finding your own voice.
Right, 6 hours a day. Then you need to be relying on that natural.
Yeah,
because that would not work if you're doing something artificially. I think there's a trend, at least in my colleagues, I think among conductors, that we're moving away from this word blend and moving towards more talking about balance and about collaboration, and sometimes the word blend can imply removing elements of your own voice and fitting in, rather than coming with your whole voice and finding a way for the choir to create a sound that is unique to the choir and those voices.
Absolutely.
So I'm really glad to hear you say that you're experiencing that.
Yeah, this is also an opportunity to kind of rethink the way that we approach, people's voices. People have so many different colors and natural, kinds of ways that they make music. And I think the point of a chorus is to bring people together, not to sort of make everyone the same. That's not always as interesting as really being able to bring people together. And sometimes that might mean that one section has a really unique sound. And I think it's the job of a very good conductor to not to bash that unique sound and and to make it sound quote unquote like everyone else, but to really find music that really speaks to that uniqueness, and two, to really highlight that uniqueness and to make people feel comfortable in being themselves, so that the experience just is, again, this feeling of bringing people together.
Yeah, that's so beautifully put. I am 100% in agreement. I think it's the beauty of choral music, is that we're all doing something. We're making a sound that none of us could make on our own. And it's greater than the sum of its parts, because everybody's leaning into this collective music experience. That's so exciting. We have some questions.
Right.
The first one is from John Brooker, who's a bass in our choir. And he says, "What is your lowest note?"
I was a baritone. This is one of my favorite questions in the world. I sang baritone, and I am a baritone. Sometimes depending on the fach or the style, I'm styled, or could be called a bass baritone. But typically, I think of myself as a baritone.
Uh-huh.
And when I was singing in Cantus, we had a really a kind of once in a generation style voice in our bass, Tom McNichols. And so one of the first questions we always got, was, "Tom, what's the lowest note that you can sing?" And he would sometimes throw out a low C for candy, or something like that. Right. And if it was a good day, he could sing a low B flat. And we had these glorious, beautiful soaring tenors, who could just hit the highest notes and sing so beautifully. And sometimes, every once in a while, kids would say, oh, what's the highest note that you can sing, something like that. And sometimes, they'd be up for it and everything like that. But no one ever asks, what is the middlest note that you can sing as a baritone? And it's such a missed opportunity, because our middle of the staff F was glorious. I mean, it's just so beautiful in this way. It really rains down just the average nature of the middle of it. No, I'm being really silly, but I kind of, I don't know what it is. I have, I think, an unusually resonant voice, perhaps, that makes that sort of might highlight some of my lower overtones or something like this. But actually, my voice isn't terribly low, especially in comparison to many other basses. For those choral singers of us, who read the bass staff, I kind of bottom out at the low F, kind of low E natural range if it's a really, really, really good day. And most, I think most choral basses, get down to E flat, D, C, this sort of thing. And, that's not even to speak of all of the octavists and, and basso profundos of the world. That would be a lot of fun. But I love to live around low A, low B flat. That's kind of my most comfortable lower side, for sure.
Yeah. And I think I can vouch for the fact that it kind of sounds like when you're singing a low A, it kind of sounds lower, like because of that resonance that you have.
There's something about the resonance that makes it funny. Yeah. But I will always be a fake bass until the day that I die. And
I love it.
I wish I were a real bass. Maybe I can do that one day when I grow up.
Not at all. Next time we'll ask you what's the middlest note that you can sing.
Thank you.
I love it. Maureen McCrae is asking, do you have a special role or performance in opera that stands out especially for you? Now, I think she asked this before you talked about focusing more on concert work. But I know you've done some operatic work, and maybe you can talk about a favorite like oratorio role or that kind of thing.
I'm just so enamored with the experience of singing oratorio and concert work. I'm not sure, what it is, or, and I again, it's kind of, I think, halfway just sort of where my training has been and where the opportunities have arisen. So, had I, had more straight, kind of Verdi, Puccini, kind of training in this way, or if I gravitated toward more of those experiences, we'd probably be having a very different conversation. But I grew up singing, Mendelssohn's Elijah. I grew up singing, some of the arias, from some of the Passions, and then that whole kind of Bach and Handel style was sort of my first really kind of focused professional training, and that's what I've been doing since. And it's really hard to kind of to sing as many Passions, the Matthew Passion especially, and as many performances of B minor Mass, and not want to kind of do that more and more and over again. It's an incredibly special and vivid and it's a piece that you just kind of keep peeling the layers off. You sing it differently. From when you're 30 to when you're 60, let alone, from Monday to Thursday. I mean, it really just has so many different opportunities. And, as I was saying before, there's a lot of music that, if you just put in the work and the time to studying that, music is all about finding those opportunities. And so the work and the kind of specific study that I have had personally has sort of focused around these, and that's just been my experience. There's nothing like singing a Beethoven 9. For me, it's such an incredible piece. Historically, and just in my own history and in my own voice, it feels really exhilarating and really thrilling. And so I love doing concert music a lot.
Cool. Well, you've named, some works that I think we could sing every day and for a lifetime, and still be, like you said, peeling off the layers. We have a question behind the scenes here from Allison. Where
Mhm.
did the name Roomful of Teeth come from?
Ah, I like to tease Brad about this. Our artistic director, Brad Wells, is just one of the most genuinely brilliant and warm and inviting people that I've ever had the chance to work with, and he's just so inventive as well. And we like to tease him and say, just kind of depends on the day what his answer is about about where he came up with the name. But some of my favorite collections of sort of where he was thinking is that you kind of have the if you think of the ephemeral nature of the voice, the vocal folds vibrate and then you get the sound and then it's gone. And the fact that that is so close to the teeth, which are the longest lasting parts of our body
Mm.
after we die in this way, it's such an interesting thing that you just have this and then you have that, and it just they kind of yeah, they kind of blend in this really magical way to create what we love in singing and in voice. And then the idea, that we have this kind of chamber, of chamber music inside of our heads is always an interesting one as well. He, I think, just naturally gravitates toward the kind of the sort of far flung
Mm-hmm.
recesses of language and things like that. So it just sounds like a band name that we all could have come up with
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
in our really fun explorations of life or something. And what's another one? And also the cadence is really another one that matches one of our other heroes, Bang on a Can, Roomful of Teeth.
Uh-huh.
It's really
Yeah.
kind of a fun little homage to them as well. So yeah, he has
Cool.
a lot. I think even once he said his dog told him on a walk. I can't remember, but yeah, he has a lot of different reasons.
That's amazing. That's great. It is a fantastic name and so memorable. Um, we haven't talked much about Roomful of Teeth today. I know everything's on hiatus now, but it's been a pretty exciting few years with a Grammy and a Pulitzer for Caroline. And what was that like just to be a part of that? I mean, what from the outside, what appeared to be a skyrocket effect for that group. I know that's often not fair to say because there's so much hard work for years and years that happens before what the public sees as a skyrocketing instant success. So what was that experience like?
It was wild. I mean, the actual day of the ceremony was just absolutely wild. We had such a great time, and it all, sort of just kind of culminated in this huge moment, and
Yeah.
then just sort of was gone. I mean, it was truly something that I'll never be able to forget. It was quite a huge production as well. I'd never been to the Grammys or any kind of big
Yeah.
sort of event like that. So that was just on a sort of a on a child sort of excited level, just a really fun day, and we were so happy for that. But
Yeah.
we have put in a ton of work to really explore our own sort of voices and to really learn and listen to our master teachers from around the world, and to really just find this beautiful place where we all come together, and where we see what music exists in this strange combination of our individual voices in this way. We love the idea, of music just being our oldest form of communication,
Mm.
and of music being perhaps in the last dying throes of the universe, being in some way still there, still vibrating in some way. Music is vibrations, and so we love to celebrate that idea of it. um, and we're just really goofy, and we have a silly time too on stage sometimes. It's I think well, perhaps maybe I should only speak for myself, but it certainly is the the loosest sort of really most natural and free expression of music making that I'm a part of. And I wouldn't be surprised to hear some of the other members talk about that too. So I think the combination of all of those things just makes it an incredibly unique experience for the singers and for many of our audiences as well. We're so lucky to have the fans that we do, who who talk about how much how much more they understand music, and how much more they understand the kind of live performance, sort of after seeing us perform, or maybe watching some of our videos online, or listen to our recordings or something like this. And so yeah, we just have a really great time.
It's palpable. I've seen you live and also listened to your recordings, and it is not surprising that the public what got so excited about this group, because it's so unique and so adventurous, and you really can sense that that feeling that you're describing with your colleagues. It's just so exciting. Okay, we have one more question. Are you up for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Caitlin says, are there contemporary oratorios or oratorio composers that you're excited about, that we should know about?
Oh yes, absolutely. People are doing such great work in terms of still kind of keeping this tradition of music that includes a large orchestra and a large choir. I think that's sort of what we think about when we think about oratorios, and soloists as well. I was so lucky a few years ago to premiere the oratorio of Paul Moravec, who's an amazing, also a Pulitzer Prize winning composer, called Sanctuary Road, which talks about the conductor of the Underground Railroad named William Still, who not only helped enslaved people escape to the north, but also took their accounts and wrote down the exact accounts of everyone that he met, and then distributed that information to people to help, again, educate people all around the world and say, this is what's happening, and this is why this needs to change. Here's a personal account, read this, and so again, that sort of educational aspect is something that we can still do today. And Paul has written a beautiful oratorio that I think works for every chorus out there. It's such a it highlights the soloist beautifully. It's just such gorgeous solos, and the chorus. I mean, it's just an unbelievable bit of writing. I was also really lucky to work on a premiere by Jeffrey Hudson called "Passion for the Planet," which I think talks about another huge issue plaguing our planet now, and that's just the climate emergency that we're in. And he took writings of different climate scientists and set it again for chorus and orchestra and soloists, a bass and the soprano. And to have huge issues like this that we all need to be educated about, and to be able to put it into the form again that is our asset, is exactly what we're doing, and that's what Jeff Hudson did so beautifully. I tell all of you composers to get your hands on these two pieces as quickly as you can. They just need to be in our communities. They need to be in our orchestras, and that's how you find this programming. You keep your ears low to the ground. You really you say, okay, maybe I might not sort of pick this on any random day, or if I just had a CD, maybe I would continue to listen to the to a Handel oratorio for 100th time. There is a lot of great comfort in that. So I'm not saying that we have to completely abandon everything that sort of makes us feel comfort of our old lives, in a way. But we're in a new world. We are in a completely changed time, and we have to be programming and rehearsing and talking about new pieces like this. And those are two excellent pieces that have just been in my more recent history. And there are tons more. There are databases and there are people who are talking about this sort of stuff all over the place. And so there is I don't want to sort of say, but it's true. There's very little excuse these days to not be sort of highlighting this as much as possible. Perhaps the excuse now with choruses and orchestras is that we can't all be in the same place. But this is the time to do the research and the planning for when we are able to get out again, and we can just get out and do the things that we've all been learning about and talking about in these times.
Well, I've written those down. Thank you. And I think that's just the perfect way to wrap up today. I mean, you've mentioned the whole philosophy behind Roomful of Teeth is this sort of dichotomy between the ephemeral voice that disappears as soon as the chords stop vibrating, and then the teeth that last forever, and music that will be reverberating forever. And that leaves me with a sense of hope for today, that even though we're quiet right now, our concert halls are dark, that there is no way it's not going to come back as soon as it's safe, and that we will be making music. This is just a short pause. So thank you for your inspiring words. Thank you for encouraging me not to be afraid to engage with difficult topics, and for just all of your insight today. It's been just amazing to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of everything that you're doing, and this is a wonderful chance to say hello. So thank you.
Thank you, Dashon.